Good morning everybody, this is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. It's July the 5th and we're beginning our reading in Psalm 25. Here we have two interesting psalms. They're not big psalms, but they take us into a place that's way outside of Christianity. So we're outside of our comfort zone. There's lots about it that seems to want to resonate with us. However, this is two classic examples of Old Testament theology. This is Psalm 25 is a psalm of David, and David is expressing his relationship with God in the Old Covenant. So let's read it and we'll see how he expresses it. It's a prayer for guidance. He says, "Unto thee, O Jehovah, do I lift up my soul. O my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemies triumph over me." So David is in the cusp of a battle. He's surrounded by enemies. He's not particularly great and mighty in himself. He is very aware that the enemy is powerful and the enemy is deadly. But he says, "I am trusting in you, God. I trust in you. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemies triumph over me." Verse 3, "Let none that wait on thee be ashamed. Let them be ashamed which transgress thy cause." He's saying to the Lord, those that forsake you, those that curse you, those that are wicked, let them be ashamed, but do not let those that are upright in heart like me be ashamed, because I'm trusting in you. Now verse 4 is my password for today. I don't want people to run away with the idea that I'm repeating this password because it has some great application, direct application to me. They're beautiful words. Let me read them to you. David says, "Show me thy ways, O Lord. Teach me thy paths. Lead me in thy truth and teach me. For thou art the God of my salvation. On thee do I wait all the day." So he's pleading with the Lord that the Lord will make more clear to him how he is to live his life in a righteous way under the old covenant. You see that now? He's needing the Lord's instruction. He says, "I know that your salvation only comes to those that are upright in heart. I know that you will only save me in the day of battle if I am righteous before you. And so I need you to teach me. Show me your ways and teach me your paths and lead me into thy truth and teach me, for thou art the God of my salvation." What he's saying is, you are the God that will save me in the day of trouble, and I need to wait upon you all day long that I might receive specific guidance. So that's why we've called this psalm a prayer for guidance. He says, "Remember, O Lord, thy tender mercies and thy loving kindnesses, for they have been ever of old. Remember not the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions. According to thy mercy, remember thou me for thy goodness' sake, O Lord." Notice he says, "Remember not the sins of my youth." You see, David has not had his sins forgiven. Now that's very important. It is possible for the Lord to remember the sins of David's youth. David's sins have been covered. They've been put out of sight. This is the old idea of the atonement. It is a covering for sin, but it's not the removal of sin. Not at all. You see, only in Christian salvation and only in the new covenant, which will be ratified at the coming of the Lord Jesus to establish his kingdom, is there complete forgiveness of sins. The Christian never has to say to the Lord, "Please do not remember the sins of my youth," because God says to the Christian, you have forgiveness of sins. Even God himself will never bring the sins of a Christian up ever again. You see, God cannot forgive and then bring them up again later. God never does that. The sins that David is aware of, he still has a conscience about them. He still knows their near presence, even though they're covered. But the Christian never has to fear, because all his sins are forgiven. He says, verse 8, good and upright is the Lord, therefore he will teach sinners in the way. You see, those who do sin, and David was one that sinned, he always went back to the temple. He always made an atonement. He always made a sin offering. His sins were always dealt with whenever he sinned. He says, the meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. So here we have it. David wasn't a Christian in any sense, nothing like a Christian, but he was in the covenant. He was in a covenant, a blood covenant relationship. He was in the Mosaic covenant. He was a circumcised man. And so he says, the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. And for his name's sake, O Lord, pardon mine iniquity, for it is great. My soul shall dwell at ease. What man is he that feareth the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. His soul shall dwell at ease, and his seed shall inherit the earth. You see, what David is saying is that a righteous man, and I'm a righteous man, he says, a righteous man is taught by the Lord how to live righteously, and his soul, his physical mortal life, is therefore at ease because he is righteous before his God, and all his children and his descendants will inherit the earth. You see, it's nothing about heaven, it's nothing about the Christian life. The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. My eyes are ever toward the Lord, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. Turn thou unto me, and have mercy upon me, for I am desolate and afflicted. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. O bring thou me out of my distresses. Look upon my affliction and pain. Forgive me of all my sins. Consider my enemies, for they are many, and they hate me with cruel hatred. O keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in thee. Now David is in a precarious position. He's in a precarious position not just because he's surrounded by enemies. He's surrounded by enemies, and he is preserved by the Lord only if he's upright in heart. Oh, and so that's why he says, Lord, keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in thee. Verse 21 is a very notable verse. He says, let integrity and uprightness preserve me. Now we know that David's integrity is the key thing. You see, a Christian, the key thing for a Christian is the righteousness of Christ, which is given as a gift. It is justification by faith in the Lord Jesus, in his cross and in his resurrection and glory. But with David, he says, let integrity and my integrity and my uprightness, may it preserve me. You see, if David had forsaken the Lord, if David had said, oh, I can't be bothered, I just can't be bothered keeping this law, it's too much, then he would have died quickly. But David is saying, let integrity and uprightness preserve me, because I'm waiting on thee. Redeem Israel, O God, out of all his troubles. So this is the old covenant. I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be living under it. There was this constant tension. There was this constant awareness of sin within, of sins unforgiven. There was this constant awareness of a holy God who could strike me down at any moment if I stepped out of line. Now, Psalm 26 is a small psalm, again, just 12 verses. It's a psalm of David. And it takes up pretty well the same theme. Let's read it together. He says, "Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity." This is it, you see. David is standing before the Lord and saying, "Lord, judge me, because I am a righteous man." The word integrity there means that his righteousness is throughout the whole of his life, throughout the whole of his personality. He is not good about everything except for just one area. You see, this is a man who is righteous in all departments of his life. He says, "I have trusted also in the Lord, therefore I shall not slide." He doesn't want to backslide. He doesn't want to slide in the day of battle. He says, verse 2, "Examine me, Lord. Prove me. Try the reins of my heart. For thy loving kindness is before my eyes. I have walked in thy truth." You see, David is reminding God of his personal righteousness according to law. "I have walked in thy truth. I have not sat with vain persons. Neither will I go in with dissemblers." I don't want to be part of those who are rebellious. "I have hated the congregation of evildoers and will not sit with the wicked. I will wash my hands in innocency, so will I compass thine altar, O Lord, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all thy wondrous works, O Lord. I have loved the habitation of thy house and the place where thine honour dwelleth. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men, in whose hands is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes." He says, don't treat me like these wicked sinners. Don't treat me like murderers. Don't treat me with like those who, and don't let me be with those whose hands are full of mischief and their hand is full of bribes. He says, "As for me," and that's a notable verse, verse 11, "As for me, I will walk in my integrity. Redeem me and be merciful unto me." The word mercy there means the withholding of the judgments of God unmerited, you see. Now, grace is a different matter. Grace is the bestowal of God's blessing unmerited, but mercy is the withholding of the judgments of God that he does deserve. He says, "My foot standeth in an even place. In the congregations will I bless the Lord." Now, can I say, no Christian is able to say verse 11. No Christian. No Christian is able to stand under grace and say, "Look at me, God, I have walked in my integrity, redeem me," on the basis of the fact that I'm righteous. No, absolutely not. You see, to be in grace is to be confessing our unrighteousness and to be confessing our unworthiness. You see, the grace of God is the special kindness of God which comes to those who confess themselves to be undeserving and unworthy. And so that's why we see that David is under law. He has to live an upright life. He has to keep the commandments. He has to keep the statutes. He has to keep the witnesses. He has to keep the ordinances of the Lord. Because if he doesn't, then God will destroy him. That's law. That's law. Well, God bless you. Great to talk to you. I think that you'll find as we go through the Psalms, not only are they glorious, they lift our hearts. We feel a sense of resonance with David and with the other psalmists. And yet, nevertheless, we feel that difference. We see something that's different. about the experience that Israel had under law, that we have under grace. And so we need to recognize that difference, and we need to learn our standing before God as Christians that is different from David's experience under law. Well, God bless you. Look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.